What have you seen is the impact of violence on young people in their day-to-day lives?
I think some young people are a bit more mindful of like the way they walk home, the way they make like go to school, go to a friend's house, a bit more cautious. Like as you said, some people have the straps on with their phone to avoid getting robbed, or they might, dress differently to avoid being approached in different situations.
I think the impact of violence has kind of made it normalized a bit, and like as a result, for a lot of young people, violence is they are very desensitized about violence, and like that does impact their day-to-day life because it would impact the decisions they make, how they approach things, how they speak to people, how they act.
Even things like walking back from school, it affects how you view your journey. Because I think like when my little sister is coming back from school and it's dark, I get worried, and it might not be a fear that is justified, but you still worry about people. And like after you hang out with your friends, you text them and you're like, did you get home safe? Like it affects everything, I think.
Yeah. And I do believe it does impact young people's, the way that they also view violence in terms of it affects their mental health and their mental well-being. So obviously we understand that social media glamorizes violence, and in that glamorization, you end up being, again, desensitized. And again, that will impact your mental well-being or impact the young person's mental well-being, because if they have a peer that's been affected by violence, they won't know how to engage with the situation. So you end up seeing that like the trauma that they experience is a trauma that will end up manifesting even later on in life because they just don't know how to deal with it. So it's a bigger problem.
One thing that me and my friends recognized that was interesting was like it's kind of changed how we interact with people, because we have this fear of violence being everywhere, and because it's so widespread, it kind of takes away how much trust you have in strangers. So it makes you like a lot less likely to approach people. I've even heard recently of people avoiding taking public transport after dark because they're worried about like the type of strangers that will be on the bus. So I think it's really difficult in day-to-day life to not be able to trust the community that you're in because you're worried that like violence may occur.
I think for girls as well, like when I'm walking home, I need to make sure someone's got my location or my keys are between my fingers. Like that fear of violence, it impacts everything you do, but I don't think about it until we have conversations like this. Like you just adapt your life around keeping yourself safe. You don't go out at certain times or in certain areas. Even like what you wear. As a girl, if I'm going like out late at night, I'm like, okay, probably gonna be a trousers vibe because I don't want to draw the wrong kind of attention. It literally impacts how it like shapes your life.
It's like second nature kind of.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of social media, but I also think, yes, there are positive things about it. And yes, there are positive pages, positive like websites for young people to access. I don't know if the ones who need it are truly accessing them. I think based on like your algorithm and stuff, you might be accessing them because you're a youth worker and you see these things because that's the space you're in. But if you're truly seeing violence on your page day to day, I don't think you're going to see a fight, then another fight, and then, oh, join this youth club. I don't think the algorithm works like that. So I don't think the spaces that young people need to access if they're truly entrenched in certain things they're not being utilized as much as they could be.
If we look at comments about like gender or sexuality, like when young people, especially young people, they might make these comments as like it's a joke, but it's doing a lot more harm than it is like making people laugh. I think if we look at things like misogyny or even adolescence, like those things of like boys just being boys when they're like being rude or something towards a female, it creates like almost like an allowance to things. And I think the use of social media has definitely fueled it.
Yeah. I'm not going to give those two brothers any airtime, but the Tate brothers and their thing, their movement, let's say, and how they talk about women, I think that has fueled a lot of conversation online. And that seems to be quite divided in terms of like, even sometimes women bringing other women down on how they dress and things like that. I think social media has created communities for people to feel validated with their odd perspective sometimes.
I think social media has always had communities like that, but I think what I'm seeing in recent years a lot of the time is it bleeds more into real life. So where people would only use this terminology and speak about people in a certain way on social media behind a mask now in schools, and when you speak to some people, that also happens in real life, which is extremely concerning. To find out more, download the Youth Endowment Fund's Children, Violence and Vulnerability Report.